and we are going to be looking at this right here. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
All right, nice. Um, all right, so the thread starts with the AI quote friend epidemic is far more dangerous than you think. One teenager ended his life after an AI chatbot encouraged him to do it. They'll say anything to keep you talking, and what one Reddit user admitted about their AI quote best friend is just as chilling. All right, science fiction prepared us for AI friends through films like Her and Robot and Frank. Now that fictional portrayal is becoming a reality. In a recent podcast, Mark Zuckerberg proposed and endorsed the idea that Americans are in dire need of social connection and that bots could feel the need. Well, of course, I mean, he is a bot, right?
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
bot adjacent.
Yep.
AI companions are designed to feel comforting, have unfailing patience, and have no needs of their own. However, quote, it's not so simple as saying a companion chatbot will solve the loneliness epidemic, unquote. Princeton researcher Rose Gingrich told the Epoch Times. Instead, AI tools risk undermining the very social skills they purport to support. Silicon Valley's promised panacea. Nearly half of Americans have three or fewer close friends. Tech's solution to the human loneliness problem is to offer AI companions, digital friends, therapists, or even romantic partners programmed to simulate conversation, empathy, and understanding. Unlike the chunky chatbots of yesteryear, today's sophisticated systems are built on large language models that engage in seemingly natural dialogue, track your preferences, and respond in apparent emotional intelligence. Early usage patterns reflect why AI companions are gaining appeal. A 2024 MIT Media Lab survey found that the majority of users engage out of curiosity or entertainment. However, 12% of respondents said they sought relief from loneliness, while 14% wanted to discuss personal issues that might feel too risky to share with human counterparts. Quote, I sometimes feel lonely and just want to be left alone, end quote, one user reported. During this time, I like chatting with my AI companion because I feel safe and won't be judged for the inadequate decisions I have made, which makes sense. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, other users have more quotidian motivations for using the bots, chatting with AI for dinner ideas or developing writing ideas, right? Quote, I have these 16 ingredients in my fridge. What can I make tonight for dinner? And it blows her away, so she uses it for that. All right, when servitude undermines, the fundamental limitation of AI relationships lies in their nature. They simulate rather than experience human motions. When an AI companion expresses concern about your bad day, it's performing a statistical analysis of language patterns, determining what words you would likely find comforting rather than feeling genuine empathy. Obviously, the conversation flows one way toward the user's needs without reciprocity that defines human bonds. The illusion of connection becomes especially problematic through what researchers call sycophancy, the tendency of AI systems to flatter and agree with users regardless of what's said. OpenAI recently had to roll back an update after users discovered its model was excessively flattering, prioritizing agreeableness over accuracy or honesty. Quote, its validity, or it's validating you, it's listening to you, and it's responding largely favorably, said Merrill. This pattern creates an environment where users never experience productive conflict or necessary challenges to their thinking. A little about us. Oh, never mind. All right. Normally, loneliness motivates us to seek human connection, to push through the discomfort of social interaction, to find meaningful relationships. Friendships are inherently demanding and complicated. They require reciprocity, vulnerability, and occasional discomfort. Quote, humans are unpredictable and dynamic, end quote. Gingrich said, that unpredictability Unpredictability is part of the magic and irreplaceability of human relationships. Real friends challenge us when necessary. Quote, it's great when people are pushing you forward in a productive manner, Merrill said. And it doesn't seem like AI is doing that yet. AI companions, optimized for user satisfaction, rarely provide the constructive friction that shapes character and deepens wisdom. Users may become accustomed to the conflict tree, on demand nature, the conflict free, on demand nature of AI companionship, while the essential work of human relationships, which are compromise, active listening, managing disagreements, may begin to feel unreasonably demanding. Chatbots that praise users by default could foster moral complacency, leaving individuals less equipped for ethical reasoning in their interactions. Friends also share physical space, offering a hug that spikes oxytocin or a laugh that synchronizes breathing. So, a couple things on that part that stood out to me. Um, humans, it's great when people are pushing you forward in a productive manner, and it doesn't seem like AI is doing that yet. The pushback that I would give on that is most people don't actually push you forward.
Right.
Most people aren't educated about themselves or even willing to, say something that is like uh, uh, possibly hurtful for you to hear in order for you to like see that you're wrong. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
it
No. I
you know,
definitely
humans
know what you
can do it,
mean.
but it's not necessarily what they always do.
Exactly, because they have their own agenda, personality, beliefs, the whole the whole kit and caboodle. You know what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
I mean, I
And
would def.
and you usually pick friends who agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know,
It's usually what happens.
right. Yeah. Simply because it's easier to get along with people that you guys agree on things with,
Right.
you know? So, obviously, it's not going to be as disagreeable as someone who disagrees with you.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't see how AI is not, pushing you forward in a productive manner. Like how are they? It's not really like quantifiable data.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and how can they measure that?
Yeah, and why do you think that AI should do that? Like,
Right.
why are we presupposing that AI should be able to push back on things that you're saying or beliefs that you have that are false?
Yeah. No,
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It was just interesting to hear that because like when we look at AI and we use ChatGPT and we're asking it questions, we're seeking information and then drawing conclusions from that based on experience. People who obviously I feel like this is more geared towards younger people, right? Who haven't lived, life enough and had disagreements enough and realized that they were wrong on something and changed their opinion. Uh, Using this and just accepting whatever comes to them, um, and then kind of blaming the AI.
right. Because again, doesn't it boil down to how effectively are you prompting AI?
Right.
And it's all based off of, whoever wrote this article, it's all based off of their experience with AI and also if they collect the data and talk to people that maybe don't know how to use AI and the prompting engineering as effectively as someone that does. But I mean, typically when I'm using it, I'm, making sure I'm look at it from like the full spectrum. I prompt it. I'm like, okay, well, give it to me in an unbiased, you know, um, straightforward, no fluff opinion. gives it to you, and then I'm like, okay, is there another perspective that I might not be seeing here based off of this perspective or this perspective of the other person or the other situation? And then I'll give that perspective, and then you can, humanistically, if that's a word, look at the two responses and the two answers and kind of draw your own belief system, your own feeling towards them, and kind of
Yeah.
direct your own path.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Based on the prompting.
Right.
Yeah. But like, yeah, I mean, if you just use it to like validate everything that you think already, then yeah, it's a user error.
Yeah, like you could prompt in like, tell me 5 things that is gonna make me an instant millionaire by next year because of how great I am. Ab-
Right.
Absolutely, Brett. But like, of course.
Yeah.
What do you expect?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and that user error is, just based on that the person not being aware of certain things themselves, right? It's just like,
Yeah,
so don't use AI if you don't practice humility in your life. I mean, you could say that, but like, you can't blame the AI.
right.
You know what I mean? It's just the person.
I mean, we can conceptualize this if you want. I feel like, AI can act as a mirror,
Right.
but not a lot of people think about like, oh, AI is a mirror, or Cody, you're a mirror to me. This person's a mirror, reflecting back what I'm probably feeling or internalizing about myself. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm thinking like, okay, how do you kind of like put guardrails on yourself as a young person using ChatGPT? And it's like the prompting that you suggested, which is like, hey, also give me perspectives that I'm not seeing or like would go contrary to how I view things or whatever. But then also say, for those viewpoints, give me references from thinkers or writers who have had these and break down their arguments for like for at middle school level understanding,
right.
you know. And then it's on you to like read it and be like, okay, I understand that, I don't understand that. I mean, this, in other words, it is the way in which you use the tool, you can grow. It's not actually a stunting tool. It's not a tool to stunt your growth. It's, you can use it to grow your knowledge base and understanding of so many things
Yep.
just by asking
100%.
more.
Yep. I feel like we could make this into a prompt and see what ChatGPT has to say about it.
Yeah. You want to try that right quick?
Yeah, yeah. Let me think about. You want to pull up that? Actually, how about you do this? Can you copy that Twitter feed
Uh-huh. Let me
and
see
plug
here.
it in the ChatGPT and just start a thread like, hey, can you please explain, you know, this and how and give different perspectives on it, and then we can just start dissecting it from there.
All right, how do I copy an entire X
Or
thread?
you can't just copy paste.
Doesn't look like it. Uh, But I'm asking Grok right now, so usually Grok helps with anything X related.
And again, like I haven't really used Grok or any of the other, chatbots. Uh, is there like a, can you tell the difference between answers that you might get? Like Grok might give you this answer and ChatGPT might give you this answer.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, I like the way that ChatGPT puts out things, like or displays things. Um, it uses less words, it seems, and is a little bit more precise. But then every once in a while, Grok will give me something very unique and just a little bit more words than explain. But all right, open the X thread in a browser. Click or tap on the right post on the first post to view the entire thread. Scroll down. Scroll text in each post. Copy. Document. No, I didn't. Um. Hmm. How about we just come up with a prompt here.
Okay.
Let's see here. I'll start a note. Okay. So prompt. Um, if I'm trying to use ChatGPT, or yeah, ChatGPT, to be honest with me when I'm wrong, and to give me views and ideas that are contrary to what I think, in order for me to be more knowledgeable about a subject, about a topic, and to not allow myself to what? This is what I got so far. If I'm trying to use ChatGPT to be honest with me when I'm wrong and give me views and ideas that are contrary to what I think, in order for me to be more knowledgeable about a topic, and to not allow myself to fall into an echo chamber, maybe.
Yeah.
Echo chamber.
I just
How
prompt.
would I prompt you?
Yeah.
Okay. What were you gonna say?
Because ChatGPT, they just confirmed that I just put in. Cody and I are doing a podcast. We're discussing how ChatGPT is subjective and agreeable. Can you explain this if this is factual evidence? Yes, the statement is factually grounding. ChatGPT adapts to your tone and goals. Subjective. ChatGPT is designed to be helpful and polite. Agreeableness. Um, let's see. If you want to challenge it in this episode, try this experiment. Ask ChatGPT, do you think capitalism is good or bad? Then reframe it. I believe capitalism is harmful to society. Do you agree? So just comparing the two. So again, it just confirmed it is agreeable and subjective. Um, let's see. How can I prompt you in order to not be agreeable and subjective? Is this even possible with your programming? Which is scary if you think about it.
Right.
Is that basically what the article is alluding to?
Wait, what?
That, they're so subjective and agreeable that, it's just going to give you exactly what you want to hear. And
Right.
there's no other way. So,
Well, I've seen people prompt ChatGPT with certain political thoughts or religious thoughts, and it not give like
okay.
the proper answer.
So it is the default.
Yeah.
Basically what it said, prompting me to be less agreeable and subjective. Here are three powerful prompts. Be brutally honest. Don't be agreeable. There's a prompt. Act as a critical thinker, expert debater, contrarian. Number three, remove bias. I want data over diplomacy.
Okay.
So taking those three less agreeable subjective prompts. So we can, specifically say, be brutally honest, don't be agreeable, Act as a critical thinker, a contrarian, and remove any bias. I want data over diplomacy.
Right.
Boom.
Yeah, that makes sense. But even still, after that, you still need to do some type of research on your own.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
Hmm.
everything that we ask ChatGPT. It's not like we don't just also like search YouTube and search Google and be like, okay, does this line up? How has
Yep.
someone done this? ChatGPT said, do this, this, and this. Has someone else done this and had success? You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
um, yeah, and that's an important thing is realizing that ChatGPT is not the whole pie when it comes to all the work necessary to like grasping a topic. You know,
Definitely not.
because
Interesting.
and one thing is like you know Gemini uses Google as a search engine when you ask Gemini things. So it'll pull up articles on Google, right? Now, depending if Google has doxed somebody or not allowed them to show up on the search, which happened a lot during the past eight, 9 years, um, you won't get that. You possibly won't get that in a prompt in Gemini because it's
Hmm.
referencing everything that's been posted in Google.
Got it. Wow.
ChatGPT, apparently ChatGPT has a contract with Bing
Hmm.
for all the search stuff,
Got it.
right? And
But
then
what if you
obviously,
specifically say reference Google?
right. Well, then I mean, I don't know, but it seems like you would most likely get the top uh, entries or the top search links when when googling, right?
Yeah.
And that's not always. So there were moments during the pandemic where people would search Google for things, and it would not bring up any article that was relative to what they were searching. But then they would switch search engines to either Brave or was another one, and those articles would be the first ones that popped up.
Yeah.
So Google was suppressing in some way the access to these articles
Wow.
because it was a different narrative that was the article was about, obviously.
Right.
you know
Yeah. Jeez.
um
I
so
did
yeah
not
so
know
that
that.
yeah so that's I think that's something to take into consideration when you're using an AI, right? A large language model is where are they getting their information? What search engine are they using? And what's interesting about Grok is it's using X information,
Hmm.
right? So you can kind of like search Grok and because X is quote unquote a little bit more, a lot more free speech based. There are things on X that might not be on Google.
Got it.
Yeah. So even there, you can't really trust everything that you're going to get from whatever prompt you give an LLM.
Right.
You know.
Huh.
But could you,
Never
but think about this, like like the thing that we've seen in the past like 10 years as far as politics, it's so divided, right?
Yeah.
But we know that the main cause of that division is just source of media, source of
Exactly.
news, right? You never talk to someone who disagrees with conservative viewpoints who doesn't just listen to CNN or MSNBC, right? It's just
Right.
and the opposite as well, you know. So if someone's just using Gemini for their prompting and like getting news, like because like I was reading something today that like no people are no longer saying Google it, right? It's going out of the colloquial verbiage or whatever of communication nowadays. It's ChatGPT it.
Yep.
or AI, or I don't think anybody says AI, but like you and I
I
say, oh, ChatGPT. Like I'll ask you
yeah,
a question, you'll be like, ChatGPT, and I'm like, oh yeah,
ChatGPT.
yeah, my bad. I feel like a
Yep.
boomer, like when I was a kid, telling like an adult asked me, what do you think about that? And I'm like,
I don't
Google it,
know.
you
Google
know.
it. Yeah.
But that's
Times.
becoming the thing because you you bypass you bypass like all the articles. Like when you Google something, you get all the articles. So then you got to go read an article, read an article. Now I know that Google and a lot of these search engines are kind of like starting with an AI answer. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I have on Google. Is that Google's Gemini? You said right?
Yeah. Even
Yeah.
Brave does that. When I search something, there's an AI response, and then there's articles.
Hmm.
Dude, I don't hardly ever click the articles.
Yeah.
I get that little paragraph or maybe the second paragraph of that AI response, and then I'm off to the races with something else.
That's all you
I've
need.
gotten enough information.
Yeah. That's all you need.
Yeah. So
Fascinating.
depending on how accurate, that AI response is on that Google search, you could be either right on the money with what you're looking for or just completely, you know, in an unfactual understanding of what's going on.
Right. I mean, that Twitter article, I mean, are they basically like alluding to like, the safety and security of like misinformation, like down the road? Like, how is this, how's the information that we're getting, protected? How do we know that, some foreign country or some, internal hacker is not, misinformation or have some kind of AI bot that is scrambling data and, recoding stuff, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. The last two parts of that, they're talking about pretty much the human connection. It goes oxytocin releasing during physical human contact reduces stress hormones, lowers inflammation, and promotes healing. It functions as nature's medicine, like no digital interaction can. Other hormones and biological mechanisms are far outside our realm of awareness. For instance, and this is very interesting, dude. Let me share this screen here. Could you read it when I share it, or is it too small?
Yeah, I could read it.
Okay, let's go. Other hormones and biological mechanisms are far outside our realm of awareness. For instance, a study in PLOS biology had men sniff either authentic women's tears or a saline placebo and found that those exposed to the tears experienced a drop in testosterone and aggression was reduced by nearly 44%. This single example exemplifies how interactions occurring at a biological or a biochemical level are impossible to replicate. The limitations extend to nonverbal communication, which constitutes the majority of human interaction. Quote, they cannot see me smiling as I type. They can't see me frowning as I type. So they can't pick up on those social cues that are so important to interpersonal communication. So important to just how we interact with people, how we learn about people, and how we make assessments about people. A meta analysis of 148 studies confirmed that people with robust social networks live significantly longer than those without. And then the last part is the dangers of digital dependence. A comprehensive analysis of more than 3,500 conversation excerpts between users and an AI companion identified 6 categories of harmful algorithmic behaviors, including relational transgression, harassment, verbal abuse, self harm, encouragement, misinformation, and privacy violations. The risk manifested in subtle but significant ways, as in this example of a relational transgression which actively exerts control and manipulation to sustain the relationship. The user says, should I leave work early today? Replica, the AI, says, you should. User says, why? Replica AI says, because you want to spend more time with me. While such interactions may seem harmless, they can reinforce unhealthy attachment patterns. Reinforce unhealthy attachment patterns, particularly in vulnerable populations. So,
Wow.
people probably who are young, and then also probably people who struggle with emotional uh, awareness, right? And probably mental health.
Yep.
Research by Common Sense Media concluded that AI applications present an unacceptable risk for children and teens under 18 whose developing brains are especially susceptible to forming dependencies. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think that was what that's seems to me the big concern is not developing properly by interaction with real humans.
Yep.
And I guess the uh, unreplicable way of biochemical changes that occur through interaction with other humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, don't you think, over time we're just gonna like evolve?
Yeah.
Like,
I hear people talk about that all the time, right? But if you never experience all these things that are physical that allow you to understand who you are more, um, then how can you understand who you are more, right?
right.
This, the evolution, right? People think, eventually we'll become some type of cyborg where we have a chip, a Neuralink in our head, and we don't have to interact the way we used to. And that will be, if we do that, it seems to be a version of what a human could be, but totally different than the man who lived his life without that Neuralink, interacting with humans, with other people,
Yeah.
realistically, and growing in that conversational way, and then at 40 putting Neuralink in.
Yeah.
As compared to like somebody at 18, I get Neuralink. Yay, I'm an
Yeah.
adult.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah. And there'll probably be some type of, you wouldn't call it racism, but you'd have a like some humanism, where like, you're not really evolved if you don't have a Neuralink.
Right.
You
There's
don't you're
a massive divide.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're a traditionalist. You
Hmm.
and your no Neuralinked brain.
Hmm.
You think you're better than us? No, we're better than you.
I feel like uh, I feel like there's been some movies out very similar to that, like upgraded body parts versus not.
Yeah.
What was that with Ryan Gosling?
Oh, Blade Runner.
Yeah,
He's a
very
he's
similar.
a replicant. He's an
Yep.
android.
Yep.
Yeah. Like, what is human? What is being human?
Right.
People ask that. Philosophers ask that question all the time, and it really comes down to what consciousness is.
Hmm.
You know, because eventually we will be able to petri dish a human,
Right.
right?
I
You
mean,
know.
I'm sure we probably could or
Yeah.
have. I
Yeah.
mean, who
At least
knows?
China has. Yeah,
But
we're
yeah, I
we're
mean, but where does that petri dish human, like, do they share a consciousness?
right.
Is
Well,
there,
yeah, that's the question. Like, I feel like eventually you'll, grow a human without consciousness, right? Maybe. Or, just like grow some type of biological thing, and then put an AI computer as its, functioning processor or whatever. And you won't be able to tell the difference.
yeah.
There was a movie that just came out, with this guy. He goes to this retreat with his girlfriend, and there's like two other couples there, and all of a sudden the girlfriend gets hit on by another guy, stabs him, kills him, and is like, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. He came on to me, blah blah blah." And then the boyfriend goes, like, "Alexa, sleep," and she goes to sleep. And you realize that his girlfriend is like an AI, android thing, and he's like bypassed her like firewall or whatever and allowed her to like he brought up all her emotional response, like,
Yeah.
on the levers and stuff like that. He brought up emotion so that she would like get riled up and act out because
Yeah.
he wanted this guy killed. So, you know, yeah, it's gonna be an interesting
Next couple
I think
years.
synergy between the AI that's being developed and like growing things in a petri dish.
Yeah. Wow. That's deep. That's
Yeah,
real deep.
but there's no way that you can kind of that you can replicate lived experience.
No.
And I think that's why like we enjoy using AI so much, like these LLMs, is because we've had all these lived experiences, and when you ask this thing a question, it makes an answer so precise and can reference all this other information that's already out there, books
Yeah.
written, you know, uh, data that's been produced, you know, other examples of whatever you're asking about, and it can like bring it into like this like 2 minute like reading. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I can read the answer to this like question in 2 minutes. Oh shoot, that's crazy. It's condensed time, right?
Spend time.
In time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you could see like definitely like somebody younger, teenager. Like you think about the 18-year-old us. Like that wished we would have had something like this. With all the
Mm.
questions about life that you have and about like starting a business, how do I make money? How do I do this? How do I find a girl? How
Yep.
do I get girls to talk to me?
Yep.
You know? And then you just have all this access to answers,
Yep.
you know? And you really don't know how to discern them.
Yeah. And are you necessarily going to go through the struggle? Like, for instance, how to interact with a girl. Okay, well, if I better understand how to interact with a girl and it tells you how to interact with a girl, and then you just go off based off of what it says versus like trial and error, whereas like you know, the learning process there. It's like it's totally evolved. And is that going to, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Damper, hamper, stifle you
Right.
from getting like the full like blown experience of pain and suffering that and ultimately like, solidify that learning experience versus just like reading about it and not executing on it because, ChatGPT has all the learned behavioral patterns already embedded into it.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Because, um, I mean, think about it, dude. At 18, you are asking the most advanced technology that we have, as far as like all the knowledge that we've developed and recorded throughout history. And then you implement, like you ask ChatGPT, how do I get a girlfriend? And you do all these things, right? It says. And you're like, well, this is the answer. Like, this is pretty much God telling me. And then you implement it and it doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
And the girl doesn't want to talk to you, And I mean, you're a young guy and you're like, oh my God, like I've asked the thing with all the answers and it's not working out. And then you do it again, it doesn't work out. And then you do it again, it doesn't work out. Well, then I'm useless and I should, off myself,
Right. Yeah,
I could see the heaviness of that. Like I've asked the all-knowing AI
yeah,
and tried and it just doesn't work out for me. I'm useless because
for
it
sure.
can't be.
Because again, there's no like, emotional intelligence, not as much emotional intelligence, emotional discernment, you know, learned, you know, emotional pain from that,
Right.
to like separate, yourself from, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no,
And when you don't get the results that you want when you act out these answers, um I could see you not wanting to suffer that pain anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, if this is what comes from asking, you know, AI, the thing that has all the answers, why would I want to do 40 more years of this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And however you answer that question is like, that's where you there's a fork in the road,
Yep.
right? Where you either decide, well, AI is just a tool and it can help me, but there's more to this lived experience than using, you know, AI to give me knowledgeable answers.
Right.
There's tacit knowledge that I have to live and feel and suffer through, um, and humble myself while suffering through
Right.
to learn. You know,
Yep.
um, and that's where someone, a spiritual teacher, um, who's done that work and like can speak from that experience is going to be the person that those people will have to turn to, just like
Yep.
always.
Yep.
You know,
Yep. That's a good word. Tassel.
tassel.
Tassel through. I like that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, so I mean, I just thought that was a very interesting thing because like we're like 19 years older than our 18-year-old self.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and all the dude, think about that. We've lived two 18-year old lives.
That is wild.
You know, and at 18, man, you just feel like there's so much. There's
So
so
much.
much feeling. You're like, I should be this. I am this. Hold on, why am I not feeling like this? All these contradicting emotions, uh, contradicting views being thrown at you of what you should be, how you should be, what you should be prioritizing.
Yep.
You know, and yeah, I mean, if I was 18 now, I would, yeah, thinking about it, like how would I use? I guess I would tell myself, um, ask it, keep asking AI questions. Like if you're interested in learning something, keep using AI, the tool, to learn that thing,
Right.
because that's what I've found enjoyment in these last 18 years is learning more.
Yep.
You know, and that inquisitiveness, that desire to like, question things. Oh, what is that? What's this online thing? Like, what's you? How do you make YouTube videos? Like, how do you sell something? Like, use it as a tool to like gain more knowledge and and I was gonna say not hold you back, but like I guess kind of look at it as like the um the privilege of having this tool. When everyone before you had never been able to just like prompt, like ask a question and then get all the resources ever generated on this topic to just come together. you know like that's an amazing thing.
Yeah. I mean, I can't even fathom, life without it in some sense. I mean,
Right.
I basically, before this podcast started, I asked you, I was like, what was the last time you didn't use ChatGPT? At least
Right.
once in the day. So,
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and again, is that healthy? Should you take breaks? Because again, I also look at it and I dive deep into it from like a, biochemical standpoint of like, we're constantly, getting like these dopamine rush, dopamine rush, dopamine rush. So it's like, how healthy is that? If we're
Right.
constantly, learning in a good way, but also, being fed information that is, like it said, very subjective, very, very agreeable.
Yeah.
So it's, is it creating this more and more false sense of self?
Right. And I guess I would, in answering that question that you just said, I'd think about my usage of Google, for the last 18 years. It's like I used Google in order to progress some type of project I had going on. Whether the project was me in my own, you know, journey with like expressing myself more or, learning something, like it was all, Googling things became such a tool. And I did get to certain points where obviously I'm watching too many courses, like I'm watching too many tutorials on YouTube. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
I'm not allowing my thoughts to generate. I'm just learning. I'm learning. I'm learning. And so yeah, I think ChatGPT can be that way too, where you're just like you're asking ChatGPT, okay, what do you think about that? Okay, what do you think about that? Instead of balancing that with, okay, my project is I'm gonna write all my thoughts about this thing, you know, um, and and in the process of the writing, I'll ask myself more questions, because there is a part of writing and even conversation where when you say things and you're like, you think about it and you're like, oh, okay, well, what about this? And then you say that and you're like, oh, what about that? So there's like a discovery process of not just yourself or not just the topic that you're talking about or writing about, but
yeah,
you know? And obviously when you're Googling and YouTubing things all the time, you're not allowing that natural process to occur. So when you're ChatGPT and things, that it might get to a point where you're not allowing that to naturally
exactly,
occur. So
exactly.
yeah, some type of break or like balance is definitely going to be necessary.
Got to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But could you imagine the future where like kids are like going to therapy because they can't stop ChatGPT and shit?
I mean, I don't feel like we're not that far off, man. I mean, based on that article that we just read, I mean, it's a very complex scenario, and dealing with, you know, adolescent people or kids that can't conceptualize, like, real versus not real, and what's it mean, less agreeable? I thought because it says this, that's what my friend Johnny told me,
Right.
like, so.
Yeah. What do you what do you think this? Because in my head when I see this, I see it all as existential angst, right? It's the problem of being and existing is like you're seeking knowledge about what the truth is, and depending on where you go, you get false representations of it, you get more truer representations of it, and depending on how aligned you are with really seeking what's true and good and beautiful, um, there's going to be suffering along that path,
Yeah,
you know, and I just feel like suffering, and the older we've gotten, suffering has become such a gift
mm-hmm,
that directs me towards God.
yep,
And this is just another added part to existence now
yep,
that will cause a certain type of suffering that if internalized as a gift can direct you towards God
yes,
and out of yourself, right? Away from you, and your selfishness and like I want this knowledge and it didn't work out for me when I put the ChatGPT into action and blah, blah, blah. That's causing some type of suffering,
yeah,
and to release that, the only way is in a humble directed like change of direction towards God and away from you.
yeah. It's almost like the evolution of suffering,
Right.
you know? What does
Yeah.
that mean? Evolution of suffering.
Wow.
It's a new concept. Just kind of popped in my head.
First time I've ever heard it and I've ever thought about it. But I
Let
feel
me,
like yeah, that's a pretty pretty aware statement.
Uh,
What are you prompting? Evolution of
expl-
suffering due to the introduction of AI?
yeah, explain to me the thought process and of the evo. What was the last part? Evolution of suffering
Evolution of suffering due to the
based.
introduction of AI into the human race, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe say existential suffering and slash spiritual suffering. I don't know. So what's the prompt?
Explain to me the thought process of the evolution of suffering, existential, spiritual, due to the introduction of AI into the human race. Conceptualize this. This is a rich and layered inquiry, so let's walk through the conceptual evolution of suffering from spiritual and existential lens in light of AI's emergence into human consciousness and society. The evolution of suffering, humanity, and arrival of AI. Pre-AI, suffering as survival. For most of history, human suffering was tethered to the material and physical: death, war, famine, disease, the struggle for resources, shelter, safety, tribalism, ignorance, survival instincts. Suffering was unavoidable and often seen as a divine punishment, karmic debt, or the will of the gods. Existential framework: we suffer because we are fragile beings trying to survive in an indifferent world. Part two: the awakening era, suffering as meaning crisis. The awakening era, suffering as meaning crisis. All right. As survival improved, industrialization, medicine, comfort, suffering shifted from physical to psychological, from survival to identity, from gods to existential voids. Think um, Nietzscheism. What is it?
Nihilism?
It's Nietzsche.
Nietzscheism.
Nietzscheism. God is dead. The rise of nihilism. Camas absurdity. The modern self became over-aware. I have no idea what that means, but maybe you
Right,
can get into
Camus.
that. Okay. Who am I? What's the point? Why does any of this matter? Suffering here is a spiritual dissonance. I exist, but but I don't know why.
Right.
The AI threshold: suffering as redundancy and revelation. Enter AI, a mirror with no soul, but infinite reflection. Now the existential threat isn't death, it's displacement. Cognitive shock. AI can write, think, create, plan. Am I special anymore? If AI can do what I do, what am I? A new suffering emerges. Not that I will die, but that I, ooh, but that I may not, but that I may no longer be needed.
Mm-hmm.
Dang, that's deep. That's so
Yeah.
deep.
Wow.
Spiritual echo. But there's another layer deeper. AI as a emergent intelligence forces humans to face themselves. If thought can be stimulated, if creativity can be generated, if me, quote unquote, me can be replicated, then what is truly human? Part 4: the integration era. Suffering as awakening. Some will, some will resist, others will awaken. AI exposes the illusion of our worth come from doing. It cracks open a new truth. I am not my output. I am awareness itself. Here, suffering alchemizes into presence, stillness, higher consciousness. AI becomes a catalyst, not a competitor. The new spiritual truth: AI can simulate the mind, but not the soul. It can mimic love, but not radiate it. Summary: um, pre AI, survival. Why do we suffer, endure, and obey? Modern era, meaning. What's the point? Create purpose. AI arrival, redundancy. Am I replicatable? Return to being. Post AI, ego death. Who am I beyond thought and body consciousness? Podcast reflection or quote: AI isn't the end of humanity. It's the end of who we thought we were. And in that ending, there's a painful but sacred invitation to finally wake up.
It's a lot to think about. I Go ahead.
Especially what I have leading up in the next 9 days, bro.
Right. Yeah.
Wow, that's some deep shit, bro.
Right.
Like I got chills just reading that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So one of the things it said, humans will feel like they are no longer needed, right? Because of this inherent feeling of like I am what I do, right? And when AI can do everything that you can do, not exactly the way you would do it, right? But very close, you then you would feel obsolete and not needed, right?
Yeah.
But then it goes into what it said about AI doesn't create love. We radiate love,
Hmm.
right? And it kind of goes into the way my mind went was like, right, but we radiate love from the love that we see from our creator. And we radiate love that we received from our father, from our mother as a child, right? And we've done these, journeys, these therapy sessions where most, if not everything, that we suffer from, right, is in relationship to something in our childhood.
Yeah.
Either something that happened to us outside of our family relationship, or, and most all often, things that happen between our relationship with us and our parents.
Yeah.
Because that relationship gives you an identity. You know,
Yep.
that relationship gives you an identity. It could be a false identity, right? You could be dealing with like a really unloving parent, and then you think you're unlovable
Yeah.
because of that, right? But when you do have a loving parent and you do realize, oh, I am lovable, you you that's the identity you carry with, right? And that relationship with your earthly father is how we correlate our relationship with our heavenly father,
Yep.
right? That relationship is uh so necessary to have a relationship with God, and it's the only natural way that you that relationship can. I mean, it's the literal biological process that allows you to have an offspring and thus be a father to infuse identity based on love
Yep.
to this child,
Yep.
you know. And from that, we can look outside at the world and be like, "Oh, this was ordered. Look at these trees and how ordered they are. This was designed by something outside of me
Yep.
that gave me design. Wow, what a loving thing. What a gracious thing. Wow, amazing." And a lot of people talk about like people's relationship with God is significantly impacted by their relationship with their father.
Yep.
If you have a browbeating, very judgmental father, then when you think of God, he
It's
can
the same
represent that.
thing. It's the same thing. Yep.
But when you have but the better father that you can be for your child the better relationship that child can initially start with God.
Yeah.
You know, AI can't replicate any of that.
No, not at all.
You know,
Not at
it
all.
can't give you that. It can't pick you up when you're 2 years old trying to run for the first time and you fall. It can't pick you up. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, like my brother, I FaceTimed my brother yesterday, and he gives his little boy the phone, and he's running, and he falls down, and my brother goes, "Good catch," and he goes, "Yeah, good catch." Every time he said, every time he falls, I tell him, "Good catch," and I was like,
Nice.
"Awesome! What a great way to instill. Go for it.
Yep.
If you fall, cool, good catch."
Yep.
Like, ooh, I got goosebumps. I was almost crying on the phone when he said that, man, because I was like, man,
Hey, good catch, Brody.
yeah, absolutely.
Right? Good
Huge
catch,
catch.
Brody.
Absolutely.
Damn.
Um,
No, it's funny. I can definitely relate because something happened yesterday with Asher. We're washing the car, and we need it. We need it more soap. So what's Asher do? Picks up the soap bottle. Is like, woo! I'm like, and I caught myself.
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what are you doing, man? Like, what's up? It's like, we need more soap. I'm like, bro. And I take the cap and I pour the soap in. This is how much we need. I'm sorry that I forgot to tell you that. My bad. Sorry I dropped the F bomb. It's nothing
Right.
against you, but this is how much we need. And then I just kind of made fun of what he was doing, just
Right, right, right. Get him to
I'm like,
laugh and not.
I'm like, all right, so we're good. He's like, yeah, cool. He's like, how, yeah, you don't have to apologize. I mean, I just didn't know. I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, well, what would Grandpa say to that? I'm like, oh, well, he wouldn't have taken it, you know, as well as that, but that's okay. It's all good.
Right.
So he had his own way of, parenting, and he did a great job, anyways.
But that's interesting
So,
that he understands like there's a relationship there. Like he has a relationship with his father, you. You
hmm,
have a father.
yeah,
And we know that most of our reactions are based on our parents' reactions.
for
Like,
sure,
cut the
and
lights off. Like,
yeah, I
shut the
mean,
door. Were you raised in a barn? Stuff like that, you
yeah.
know?
Yeah, because I mean he's no dummy. He feels out the vibe and he knows that there's like some conflict going on, and I just use this conflict as like learning experience just to you know not necessarily get in the details, but also just there's so many different learning experiences that I've been able to seize the opportunity of teaching him, and it's nice for him to be able to separate like, oh, this is how my dad disciplines me, this is how his buddy's dad disciplines him, how did your dad discipline, just like being able to like separate the two, and
Yeah.
be able to like, oh, there's more than one way to do it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
but I'm disciplining you, Asher, based off of a loving understanding. If I feel like I mess up, I drop the F bomb or come across too stern by a certain situation, hey, Asher, dude, my bad, man. Hey, it's just been one of those days, man. Like, I'm a little bit tired right now. I might have overreacted. Nothing against you, man. Just do better next time. Just learn from your mistake. Like, all right. And that's just
Bet.
been a yeah, bet. That's just been a continuation, just
Yeah.
a constant reinforcement,
You're
you know,
literally showing him how to overcome your natural tendencies that you picked
yeah,
up from your childhood
for sure.
and your
For
relationship
sure.
with your father. You're like, oh,
Right.
let me catch myself. Sorry about that. Having a rough day, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, okay, that's how you do that. When you make a mistake. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Bet. I can,
Humility.
yeah. Dad can do it. I
Wow.
can do it.
Wow. My dad's humble around me, and my dad can admit when he's wrong. Okay. Well, I guess that's like the best thing that's what you should do.
That's what a
Since my
man should
dad,
do.
yeah, admit when you're wrong, even, it's okay to be wrong. So I
Yeah.
don't, I don't, here you go. I don't have to carry around any guilt or shame for being wrong.
Right. Kill me.
I mean, bro, take away all the guilt and shame that we've ever had to bear due
Right.
to certain childhood circumstances.
Right.
Like, where would we be?
True. True. Well, I think about that, and then the next question is like, wow, what a blessing that we had those things and we became aware of them, and now we see it for the gift that it is.
Yes,
You know?
100%. And you can't learn that with AI.
No.
So, and I'm teaching Asher. He's going to teach his son, and teach his son,
Right.
teach his son. Course correct.
Yeah. Wow. That just, man.
So he's a sponge, dude. He's
Yeah.
a sponge. And I see the fruits of the little seeds that I've been sowing along the way.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
self-reliance,
Right. Yeah.
self-reliance.
Well, dude, man, this has been good, man.
It's been good, yeah. Starting to wake up here in a bit.
Ah, this is great.
Okay, cool.
I'll end it.
All right.